What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. We are back to talk some more fantasy basketball. I know preseason has started, but there isn't really too much going down. A couple of quick things to mention in terms of the real world of basketball, but the primary focus of today's episode is going to be talking fantasy. We're going to be talking the best value picks and the worst value picks based on preseason rankings. Chris is going to be taking the positive. I'm going to be taking the negative side of things, and we're going to just hash it out so you guys know where to make the best picks and where you can maybe pick up some steals as you prepare for your drafts in the next couple of weeks. But before we get into it all, Chris, how you doing,
I'm
man?
great. I'm just really riding this high off of the news that we got from LeBron James. He's partnering with Hennessy. I'm glad that we postponed the podcast. I'm glad that we waited all day for that. In fact, almost 14 to 18 hours. I think it's really been a fulfilling moment for me to finally hear that he's partnering with Vsop again. So I'm about to go get myself some Hennessy. Maybe they'll sponsor us here too. But I'm ready to get into it, man. Let's talk some real basketball. Enough of all that BS, man. I'm so on the real though. I hated that. I hated that. We all knew it was coming too. I thought it was gonna be Space Jam 3. I thought it was gonna be, I don't know, some sort of brand sponsorship deal. But this dude's gonna squeeze every last penny he can out of his fame here in the NBA. But I mean, who wouldn't? It's fine. But where are we gonna start? We're gonna start negative. We're gonna start positive. Do you start with the deal that Kuminga got? Should we just go over that real quick? Our boy Jonathan Kuminga finally knows what's going
Yeah,
on.
let's talk a bit about Kuminga. I mean, yeah, he's agreed to a deal with the Warriors. It kind of seemed like the Warriors wanted to keep him around more than he wanted to stay, but at the same time, he wasn't going to get this sort of money anywhere else. Still in a position where it's a somewhat tradable deal. Still in a position where he can get out next year. So I guess it's kind of a win-win for both sides. It's just going to be really interesting to see where it goes
Yeah,
next summer.
yeah. It's two things. I think one, it's a good contract for both sides because it's a tradable contract. That's a good chunk of money if they want to make a deal. It's as close as he was going to get to the range that he wanted. That he was never going to reasonably go over 30 mil a year. That's just not something that they were going to be able to do. I think the interesting thing to watch as this goes on are the kind of teams that would be looking for him, and as we evolve our understanding of the CBA, the sign and trades are no longer a done deal. They're kind of difficult to operate under the current apron rules. So we'll see how things go at the deadline. We'll see how things go next summer. But good for him. I mean, finally he can breathe easy. He got what I think is close to his value, and he'll have the ability just to play knowing that he's got paid. And we'll see what happens. I think at a minimum he does end up playing out the length of his contract, and maybe the Warriors look to move it next summer. But here's another opportunity for him to show it.
Yeah, and I think, like I was saying, actually just mentioned to you before, it's just kind of funny that Steve Kerr is actually his contract runs out next summer. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure Kuminga would probably argue that it's the coach that's kind of held him back from really, really flourishing in Golden State. There obviously has been other things too, but it's going to be maybe it's an interesting to wait and see how that plays out. Does Kerr walk away? Do they re-sign him on a new deal? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. That could have a big impact on whether or not Kuminga's future lies in Golden State or elsewhere.
I can't imagine them choosing Kuminga's potential over keeping Steve Kerr around, but that's just me.
I do agree, but you
Yeah.
just never know.
Quentin Grimes gets inked. Finally know that he's going to stay. Qualifying offer. Both him and Cam Thomas are playing out for their contracts next season. I guess I'm a little surprised by that. I thought that maybe he'd settle for something a little bit more long term, but we'll see what he ends up landing at.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the word in his ear was obviously that it just made the most sense. Like, he obviously, maybe he likes the city of Philadelphia, and just whatever other money was out there, it just wasn't realistic. And I guess he's backing himself to be able to have another big year and earn maybe like I don't know what sort of money, like what sort of money do you think Quentin Grimes is worth? I assume it's like somewhere in the 15 to 20 mil a year range in sort of a long term format. So it's going to be interesting to see how if he can continue to develop in what Philadelphia hope will be a season where they're not having to rely on him as much with all the injuries, and they're actually seeing him play alongside the likes of Paul George and Embiid and Maxey rather than kind of taking over from them in the way that he did last year.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's going to be plenty of minutes to go around, for sure, knowing this Philadelphia team. But speaking of which, I say we go negative. Let's start with. Do you want to start with your negatives? Because this is the biggest thing drafting.
Yeah, we this could be a little back and forth here. Well, I'll start off and I'll give my number. I guess they are in order. So yeah, I'll give my number one. Then we can discuss it, and then we can flip to the positive. We'll go back and forth here when we're talking. Not to get too negative or too positive at any stage in the pod. That's the goal today, right?
This is the biggest thing in drafting every single year.
So we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of the main two.
And a note on this, just general note on strategy and what we're actually covering here. We're focusing on 9-cat leagues. So points leagues ranked a little bit differently than category leagues. So keep that in mind. We're looking at both ESPN rankings and Yahoo rankings. The whole general idea of this is that you win your fantasy leagues largely on obviously the trades and waiver wire pickups you make out throughout the season, but how much value you get out of each pick. We're not big on reaching. We're not big on that one guy. But we're big on making the right choice when the time comes around and just being opportunistic. So the worst pick you can do is reaching for one of these guys and drafting out of position. But we want to go over some guys that you definitely want to shoot for versus guys that when they fall in your lap maybe are not going to be the best value and to look elsewhere. So why do you kick us off, Ronan? Who's your number one guy that you want to avoid?
My number one to avoid is a guy we mentioned briefly on the last pod. It's LaMelo Ball. Ranked number 26 on Yahoo. He's ranked number 17 on ESPN. And I get there's still the idea of him is still nice, and you still have that idea where you're like, if he's healthy for the year, he is going to put up numbers, which is true. But the last 3 seasons, 36 games, 22 games, 47 games. There's no consistent pattern of him really playing games over the last 3 years. And some of the guys that come after him in the rankings, Jaylen Brown, Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey, Pascal Siakam. Brown beat LaMelo Ball in 5 of 9 categories last season. Barnes 6 of 9, Giddey 5 of 9, Siakam 6 of 9. Other guys below him in certain ways are like Booker, White, Sabonis, Mitchell, Durant, Mobley, Siakam, Brown. They're all guys that are ranked below him, some on ESPN, some on Yahoo, and they're all guys I'd rather take than LaMelo Ball. So if we're talking the worst value, I really think LaMelo Ball is right up there because I just don't see him end up being a top 26 pick in Yahoo, or definitely not a top 20 pick on ESPN.
He's so fascinating to me because I think year in, year out, we see him start strong. We see him be borderline top 10 fantasy player, and then inevitably the injuries are what derail him. And it's always one of those what-if situations, a what-if health. And availability is the best skill, especially when it comes to fantasy. But if this guy slides, I've thought about this a lot. If he slid, how far does he slide before I'm like, yeah, I'm taking that risk? How far does he have to go down before I'm willing to invest in that injury risk? And is it the 3rd round? Is it the 4th round? The 5th round, I mean, he's absolutely getting scooped up. But I'm not taking him with my second or third round.
5th round, you're going to take him. Yeah, I think he's definitely if you're a late 3rd rounder, you maybe consider him. If you're and then 4th round, you really it starts to become a real option there. But I don't think you shouldn't be considering him with your first pick. I guess most people around, I know we're in a 10-man league. I feel like it's usually 10 or 12 that most people are in. So, if you're going by ESPN's ranking, he's an early 2nd round pick. Obviously, Yahoo is a little bit different. So yeah, I think you're taking a risk if you're going for him in the 3rd. Maybe if you're a late 3rd round pick, you can maybe consider him, but I think he should definitely be a mid to late 4th round pick at best for me.
I think if I end up getting him in some leagues I'm in, and he starts going off the first couple months, I am aggressively shopping it. Because I think right now the league's pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows his injury risk, but all it takes is a couple weeks. Him averaging 27 points, 8 assists, 2 steals, 7 rebound, like doing some crazy stuff that we know LaMelo can do,
Hmm.
and the fade's gonna come right back. On that note, in that same breath, Jaylen Brown, like I've been really low on honestly over the past few years. I've had to dig a little bit deeper on the stats, and I think that people are sleeping on him a little bit too much here in fantasy. Without Jason Tatum in the mix in his career, he's averaged 27.3 points a game, 7.1 rebounds, 1.2 steals on over 4 assists per game. And he's done this on 50% from the field and 2.5 threes per game. And this is a guy that I think that's going to be clearly contributing in many categories. He's going to be getting a lion's share of usage throughout the season. And the question is, I think a lot of people are having is, all right, are the Celtics going to play it pretty conservative this season? Are they going to rest guys? Are they going to like cut things early? Are they going to maybe try and like soft tank? And I don't think Joe Mazzulla, I do not think Jaylen Brown, these two guys that are championship caliber coach and player are going to pack it in. I think Jaylen Brown's going to be going for, and it would be within his right to be going for a career kind of year. And the opportunity is there for him to do so. And it's time for him to show it. And I think that he will be very much outplaying his position, at least in ESPN. They're ranking him 40. Yahoo ranking him 28. I think that he could very, very easily be a solid second round pick kind of value if you're getting him at the end of the third round.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like, there's obviously the little bit of fear a lot of people have. Like you kind of mentioned, like, oh, he's playing without Tatum. Maybe Tatum brings out the best in him. But I think he's a guy that kind of flourishes when there's the extra bit of pressure on him and the little like chip on the shoulder. And hopefully he'll be hoping that obviously like the likes of like a Derek White and a few other guys can still step up for the team. So there's a little bit less like he's getting double teamed a little bit less and just a little elements like that. But I think in terms of the value, like you're talking there, like he could absolutely be right on the cusp of being like a top 20 performer this year with the usage that he's going to have and the defensive capabilities that he has for sure. And like ESPN ranking him at 40, I think is pretty insane.
So I think, who do you got for your second? We're gonna go positive, negative, positive, negative. Do a little snake draft here.
I have a bit of an interesting one. This is a guy that I really do like, and a guy I kind of hope I have on my team, but just based off his value, I'm a little bit worried about him. And I got Trey Murphy the third coming in as my next pick. On Yahoo, he's at number 38. ESPN, he's at number 47. So I think ESPN's probably a little bit more fair, but to think about, there's guys like a Jaren Jackson Jr., a Paolo Banchero, a Ja Morant, a Zion Williamson, a Brandon Miller. They're all guys that are below him on this list. Like that just seems insane to me, and I like what he brings, and he's kind of the guy kind of can do a little bit of everything. But he's also a guy that's been hit by the injury bug a little bit the last couple of years. 57 games, 53 games. And I just still believe like Zion is still going to be the best performer on the Pelicans if he's healthy. And like, look, he's slimmed down and you want to believe in him. At those sort of numbers, I'm still probably going to be more likely I still think you should take a risk on Zion at like number 38 or late in the third, fourth round rather than a Trey Murphy. And same with like Banchero is a guy I hyped up as potentially being a top 10 performer. Like Brandon Miller, I think could be great this year, especially if with or without LaMelo Ball. I think he could be a big time performer this year. And like so, like it's just like who he comes after him really made me think that these just ranked just a little bit too high.
Yeah, I think a lot of fantasy analysts are expecting him to take a bigger jump this year. You've seen him take on more offensive responsibility when he's been healthy, and I mean, how much can we bet on Zion's health? That's the calculus here. Is what is this team going to look like without Zion on the floor? Because that's the more likely outcome. And I think even if Zion's on the floor, I think that he kind of benefits from that. But everyone on that Pelicans team is plagued. It's tough to kind of trust that in that range as well. Am I buying him or am I buying Brandon Miller stock? I mean, that kind of comparison, that makes me think a little bit twice about where you go with it. Because we know that Brandon Miller is going to have plenty of opportunity this season, that he's going to have the rock in his hands. He's going to have the opportunity to really develop this season. I believe in the efficiency numbers that you're going to get from Murphy. You're going to get more 3-point volume. You're going to get more consistent rebounding. You're going to get better shooting percentages. But, I think the upside too.
Brandon Miller does play for the Hornets, though. We know they chuck.
I'm surprised. Do you have Zion on your list? Let's just get that out of the way.
I do not have Zion on my list, no. I think he's pretty fairly ranked, and especially for what we know he can put up if he is healthy. It's just that ultimate question of him being healthy or not.
I feel like I'd almost, if we had LaMelo Ball in that range, then that would be a little bit more fair, because I think it's kind of the same thing. You're swinging for health. You're probably not going to get it. But if you do, you got yourself a top 20 player, top 15 player. Easy. I'm sticking with the third round. Pascal Siakam. He's ranked 47 in ESPN. He's ranked 30 in Yahoo. And if he's I love the idea of grabbing Jaylen Brown and Siakam back to back. Two guys that I think that can outplay themselves by round. Siakam's not going to have Halliburton alongside him, which obviously we know that Halliburton's going to increase their pace, but we've seen also the Pacers play pretty fast without him. We've seen them play fast in the open court. We've seen them get up and down. We've seen them continue to have a good offense. And I think that Siakam now playing a little bit more in the play, his natural role as like a playmaking forward, attacking from the perimeter and not necessarily just being a secondary playmaker at times. I think we'll see him get closer to his Raptors years where he's averaging 23, 8-4, 1.5 stocks. I mean, they're the kind of things that make him a absolute category darling. I think that there's no question that he's going to achieve that. There's not really much standing in front of him except for health, which I think he's been pretty solid over the last few years.
Yeah, no, I love the pick. I love the idea of picking up Siakam this year. I think, like you said, he can be such a category darling. He can really kind of fill it up across the board, especially now when the ball's likely going to be in his hands that little bit more. And we could even maybe potentially see his stock numbers go up a little bit when there's going to be a little more. They're going to rely on him a little bit more with Turner gone as well. So I think Siakam is definitely a guy who is going to outperform what a lot of people rank him on early on. And like you said, he can do it. He can put up good scorer, strong rebounder, solid assists, solid on stocks, good efficiency. He pretty much brings it all. Other than, of course, the 3-point volume, the 3-point percentage. You're not going to get that from him, but you can make up for that with some other players. He can kind of really do it for you a little bit across the board, which is what you're always really looking for.
Yeah, for him to bounce back year for year.
But yeah, my next pickup is Jimmy Butler, a guy that Yahoo have ranked way too highly, and ESPN have probably correctly ranked. Number 44 on Yahoo, just insane. Number 94 on ESPN, which is fine. But you look at his ranks last year, and they were all terrible. I know he had the issues in Miami, only played 55 games, but it felt like kind of the beginning of the end for him. Another guy who's never been a regular season player, and he's now playing on a very postseason focused team. I just don't see the value at Jimmy Butler anywhere inside the top 5 rounds at all.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me at all. Unless you were drafting him for the last few weeks, I think maybe we expect to see Jimmy Butler in top playoff performance, as the Warriors are going to have to be eking out, seeding position in the last few weeks of the regular season. But we know that he's going to take time, and we know that this is a strategy that Golden State's going to use to make sure that they are that they're going to be healthy. So I just don't understand it. You got better value even going deeper. I mean, I would even take DeMar DeRozan if you're looking for that sort of solid production. I mean, DeMar doesn't never miss his games. I mean, in that same range, I mean, you already mentioned your Brandon Millers, your Denny Avdija. There's just so many other guys that I'd rather bet on that have higher upside. I'm not really understanding this ranking here, and I think it's a name recognition that ADP is always going to be there because it's Jimmy Butler, but I think his days as a fantasy producer in the regular season are gone. I don't see him being in the top 80 at the end of the season.
Totally agree.
Just had to say.
So negative. Let's get positive again.
His Miami days were great, man. When they were good. I have a good one.
All right.
Jaden Ivey.
Interesting.
Outside of the top 100. ESPN has him ranked 107. Yahoo's got him ranked 109. let's be fair, he only had 30 contests last year, but we saw a clear rise in his number. He's gotten better year after year. He's going to be the clear-cut number 2 option next to Cade. He's going to have plenty of opportunity. We're going to see him be, really flex his muscles as an off-ball shooter, which he did a lot more of. He shot 41% on 6.2 attempts. He is averaging almost 20 points a game. I think that he's going to be, it's not a big rise for him with increased opportunity and more minutes for him to be averaging 21, 5, and 5. We expect him to be continuing to shoot 50% from the floor. I don't expect his numbers to necessarily stay the same as efficiency-wise from the three-point line, but at that volume, I think he'll continue to be hitting, 3.5 threes per game. But this is a guy that I think that is on a rising team. He's a rising young player, and if you're getting him in the 10th round, and I think that's a big swing, and that's a kind of pick that I think really you love to see later in rounds. A guy that could potentially vault himself in the top 50.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's definitely a guy you can feel good about taking, maybe even in the 8th round or the 9th round. Like, that's a guy who's like worth taking a risk on at that mark. And the guy, if he can stay healthy this year, obviously, I don't know if this is a good sign or a bad sign, but I kind of like the idea of the previous injury kind of being like an impact one. And maybe that's one that you can like recover from a bit quicker rather than one of them that's going to like linger around. But obviously I'm not a doctor. That will remain to be seen. But he's a guy that I like to believe could like perform as at the very least like a top 70, top 80 sort of player. And like considering he's ranked outside of the top 100, I think he's definitely a guy that can exceed that sort of value for sure.
Yeah. I'm just really excited about this.
Fun team as well. Yeah, like him alongside Cade, like it's going to be so fun to see. And yeah. If he's like he could be anywhere. Like he could honestly range anywhere from being like a top 50 guy to at least like a top 80 guy. I'd be shocked if he's outside the top 100 when we get like final ranks on the season this year. But yeah, I love that pick from you. That's I'm glad you're so into your Detroit Pistons and your guys like that because that's a great pick for sure. All right, back onto the negative side of things. This one is. This is just crazy to me on one hand, and then obviously right to me on the other. Again, it's disparity between Yahoo and ESPN is just crazy. Yahoo, I think we discussed this before, I'm definitely agreeing with them more, but next up I got Reed Shepherd. Yahoo have him ranked at 122, which that's fine. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
ESPN have him ranked at number 55. And I'm like, that's absolutely insane. Like how could that be? Like, he only played in 52 games last year. He only had 3 starts, 654 minutes, like, put up sub 250 points, didn't really do anything. Like, how can we believe that this guy is going to come in to a team looking to win now and become a 5th, 6th round pick? Like, that's just absolutely insane. The fact that like a guy like Jaden Ivey, who we've actually seen do it in the NBA, is ranked as lowly as you just said, and they're trying to rank Reed Shepherd up this high, like, just insane to me. Do not take Reed Shepherd anywhere before, honestly, the 10th round.
Yeah, I think people are assuming a lot by that ranking, which, I don't think is entirely unfair. I think the idea of Reed Shepherd is that he could take on a primary ball handling role, that he could be a high volume off ball shooter, he could be a movement shooter, he could be a guy that's playing the pick and roll and also off DHOs with Şengün, that he could be a really vibrant part of this offense. But I think that's assuming that all happens very quickly. I think the average of those two makes a little bit more sense for me, where best case scenario, I see him as maybe a top 70, top 80 player. I think that it's going to take him a few months. We talked about that December timeline. I think that we'll be seeing him hit his stride a little bit closer to, maybe post All-Star break. I love him as a late round pick, maybe not for this season, but as kind of a dynasty player, because we know that he's going to have all the opportunity there. And if he hits, like, he's just such a perfect fit in that system. There's just no question about, the archetype of his player and the underlying talent that we think he has. And, if it hits there, it's just going to work out.
Just on ESPN, just a few of the guys that he's ranked above.
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr., Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Tyler Hero, Zach LaVine, Porzingis, Darius Garland. Like, I'm going to take all of them over Reed Shepherd this year. I'm going to be honest. Not to say there isn't a world where some of them guys underperform or anything, but I don't see Reed Shepherd coming in and being like a 20 and 6 guy, like, straight off the bat or anything crazy like that.
I think if Michael Porter Jr. is not on your don't draft list, he should make an honorable mention. I think we know we get it. Zach LaVine, I mean, the production we're going to get from him. I think I'd rather have a Zach LaVine. I'd rather have a Darius Garland. And this season alone, I think that probably a lot of that ADP is going to be driven by dynasty leagues that are going to be hoping to see, diet Steph Curry in the future from him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay with some young guys here. Going back to the positives, I think a great value pick. There's a couple centers left here. One that may be kind of a swing, but we're talking dynasty. Maybe you're not just picking this guy just for the season, but you're thinking the future. But I think Alex Sarr might even get there this season. Also ranked just on the cusp, right in that 10th, 11th round. He's ranked 100 on ESPN, 105 in Yahoo. I think we got to think about what do we expect for his stats here. Just a modest rise in his efficiency, and we see him hitting 16, 8, 2.8 stocks, and a minimum of 2 3-pointers made. A guy that you're getting in the 10th, 11th round, a guy that you're going to be getting 3-pointers out of, you're going to be getting defensive stats out of, you're going to be getting rebounds, and you're going to have nights where he's going to be producing offensively. Like the Wizards are looking for an answer from that front, and they are going to feature him. Sarr is going to be a part of that. And while the percentages are going to be tough night in, night out, which I think is going to be driving down his value a bit, I think you're kind of betting on, you're asking yourself whether or not that improvement we saw over the course of last season was a real signal, or if that's just, a rookie, starting to get a little bit comfortable. And now he's going to be on scouting reports. Maybe it's not going to get much better. But I believe in a guy that has his kind of frame, that has his kind of skill set, that a lot of our questions were mostly on his intensity, which he got better with, his physicality, and his mentality overall, which we saw evolve a bit. But I'm pretty excited to see what he does. And if, it's in those later rounds when you want to take those swings, and I'd be very happy to take a swing on a guy like Alex Sarr.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's important that we saw the stocks come through right away. Like, that's just like the area you always want your centers to be able to deliver in. And we saw that come right from the off last season, and we slowly saw him get better on the board, slowly saw him get better as a scorer and as a shooter as the season went on. And I think there's more than enough reason to believe that that's going to continue on this year. And he can definitely be a guy that significantly outperforms his rank. I think Alex Sarr is definitely one to keep an eye on. I know a lot of people will sleep on him because obviously he's playing in Washington. Like, who the hell cares about Washington? So, like, that's why people are going to sleep on him. And I think that, like, the opportunity is there to get him late, and he could definitely be a guy that, like, he could ultimately be, like, a worthy, like, starter on your team, not just, like, a bench guy or anything like that. He could be a guy who's capable of delivering for you on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
Especially, like, dynasty leagues like we talked about, and things like that, and, like, keeper leagues too. Like, he could be a guy that maybe doesn't fully get there this year, but maybe next year is the year that he might be able to really pop off.
Yeah, you're not drafting unicorns at this point in the draft. There's not guys who are going to be giving you threes, rebounds, blocks, steals, really outside of these, like the top 7 rounds, 6 rounds. It's pretty rare to be swinging on a guy of that type of archetype.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, my number 5. This is one that I hope I'm wrong on, but I'm just kind of going off the vibes and what might change with his game this year. I got Josh Hart at my number 5.
Yeah.
He's ranked 57 on Yahoo.
Yeah.
He's ranked number 42 on ESPN. This is a guy who started 77 of the games that he played 77 games last year, started them all, nearly led the league in minutes. But now we could see Robinson come into that starting lineup for him. The Knicks have added extra guard depth, so that's going to take away from his minutes. Yes, he's got that versatility, but I think, like, at the worst, we could maybe see his minutes drop below 30. Even then, we're going to see a significant drop off in his minutes, which means he's not going to be putting up the same sort of numbers across the board that we saw last year. And I just think he's valued too highly for how much could change in terms of how much the ball's in his hands and how many minutes he's actually on the floor.
Yeah, it remains to be seen what a Josh Hart not led by Tom Thibodeau looks like. And I love Josh Hart. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA, but it's the miles that got put on him. It's the role that's going to change. It's a personnel difference here. And we're talking value. I mean, just looking at Yahoo alone, I mean, there's so many other value adds here. Again, like if you are in need of points and you're in need of shooting percentages, I mean, DeMar DeRozan's right there. If you're in need of rebounds, you need a reliable big. Vucevic is right there. If you're trying to swing on a big, I mean, a double-double, walking double-double, Jalen Duren's right there. It's hard to convince myself to be drafting Josh Hart in the top 60. It's just I don't see him cracking the top 60 at the end of the season. That it just seems unlikely to me, unless there's an injury.
Yeah. I want to keep seeing Josh Hart. I want to see him doing this thing, but I'm also like, I think there's going to be enough guys to kind of pick up some of the slack that he had to pick up last year. So that like it's going to be better and a more all round team performance, not just centric on a couple of players.
Yeah. I want to bring up a guy. I'm surprised we haven't talked about him yet. We saw him play a little bit in preseason. Cooper Flag. I'm not throwing him out here as one of my clear picks, but I mostly want to maybe diverge a little bit and open it to the floor if these rankings make sense. So he's ranked 32nd in ESPN, which I think a lot of people will pick him there for sure. Just the name alone. Yahoo's got him at 53. I think there's just going to be so much variance with where Cooper Flag is picked. I think some guys are going to reach, they're going to take him in the third round. I mean, I would not be shocked if you see the off chance that someone picks him in the top 20. Like, I think that's going to happen. I'm not going to do it, and I don't think you should. But, I mean, where do you think he ends up at the end of the season? Is he a top 50 player? Is he a top 30 player?
I mean, it's so hard to know because he's such a guy that's so, like, the idea of taking a risk on him, like, I love that. It's so fun. Like, he is a guy that, like, we could see come in. And, like, it wouldn't be crazy for to see him, like, average, like, 25-5 and maybe close to, like, two stocks as a rookie. Like, that's not an insane thing to see.
That would be insane, yeah.
But, like, just, like, the players that he's playing with, and the fact that like we expect Kyrie to come back at some point as well, that's where you kind of have to take a step back on Flag, unless you're in a position where obviously you're in a dynasty league, you have the first pick, you take Cooper Flag and don't think twice about it. But you're in other leagues, I don't think I would take a risk on him until late fourth round. I think that'd be the highest that I'd be willing to take the risk on him there, because I just don't see it coming to fruition like right away. But at the same time, if you're thinking long term, and even if you're in a keeper league, you maybe want to take a shot at him in the third round, get him before anyone, and then have him when in year two when he's maybe really ready to pop.
I think what will really, I mean, there's two major swings for his value here. Is how much 3-point volume we get from him. That's a big question. And I think what I'm like starting to get a little bit more high on for him is really envisioning like what his assist numbers are going to be like this season. I think that his scoring is going to be there. I don't know if he quite hits. I don't know if he hits 25. That would be pretty insane. But I think he just modest numbers and him even hitting like sub 20 points per game, approaching 20 points per game, which I think more like, unless his 3-point shot is falling, I think he'd probably be closer to like 18 points per game.
That's fair.
That's just my general projection. But if he's averaging 5 assists per game, we know he's going to get the rebounds. You know he's going to be averaging probably over 5 boards a game. How aggressive he is on the boards. We know he's going to get those defensive numbers. I mean, that's a borderline top 30 player. That's probably a top 30 player.
But like, you're a guy who's got this experience.
There's just a lot of variables that I think will happen. We know that he's going to try and take those threes.
You took that risk on Victor Wembanyama in our league, and
I did.
How's it worked out for your boys?
It hasn't. I mean, that's because the rest of my picks were pretty bad, but I did pretty well on that one. But I think I bring Cooper Flag up because I think he's gonna be such an interesting guy in the draft. I'm gonna really enjoy baiting people into over drafting him in the auction, but I think I'd be very excited to pick him up if he starts to fall in that fourth round, because I think he definitely has possible, like, he has top 30 upside for sure, given the fact that he can just contribute in every category.
Yeah, no, like that's totally fair. He's definitely an interesting one to keep an eye on. Some other guys that I kind of was looking at that are just kind of interesting. James Harden is ranked number 5 on ESPN.
That's
a really interesting one. But I was like looking through the numbers, and it's almost like kind of hard to fault it really, because
it's not wrong.
He still continues to just put the numbers up across the board in a very like surprising way.
It's not wrong. I mean, he's going to be a top 3 leader in assists. He's going to be probably a top 10 leader in threes. He's going to give you free throws. He's going to give you good percentages. I mean, the steals numbers have been there here and there, but not prolifically. But I mean, he's just going to be so solid there, and he's not. No, he's not been terrible in terms of health. So
no, he's been pretty good,
he's probably going to be there,
especially with the Clippers. Yeah, like it's just an interesting when you see that, and you're kind of like, what? James Harden's still ranked that high, and then you like dive deeper on the numbers, like, yeah, that's actually pretty fair.
Yeah, it's fair. It's weird. He's still a top 10 player, probably. I don't disagree with that. Totally.
It's pretty crazy. And then like other ones where like you could probably get value. Miller is at 50 on Yahoo, 72 on ESPN. That's definitely value there. Mobley is at 35 on ESPN. I think that's if you're getting him that late, you've got the steal. You might have the steal of your entire draft if you can get him that late.
Yeah, we already talked about. I didn't want to throw Mobley in again. We talked about his high value. I already threw him in my favorite possible like reaches in the top 10. I'm very high on Mobley. I mean, if Mobley is falling to me at 20, I mean, I'm psyched. If he's falling to 30, like
we're different. We're in our auction league, but like he's my keeper. Like I'm keeping Evan Mobley, and I'm rebuilding around him this year.
Yeah, there's nary a brain in sight if someone is not drafting him in the top 30. I want to bring up another center here, Mark Williams. He's ranked 94 on ESPN, 81st in Yahoo. It's always going to be an injury issue, but a guy who, you hope he plays more than 44 games in a season, which he hasn't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
But a guy who's going to be putting up just ridiculous rebound numbers. And he's going to be putting up ridiculous field goal percentages. And he could be a top 10 center if he's just there. I mean, taking a swing at a guy like that, I think you're getting a pretty obvious top 40, top 50 player if he just plays. And those are the kind of swings I don't mind taking in the 9th round at all.
Yeah, no, I like again, another guy that's like this. The idea of him and like what the underlying numbers like say, like he could be that guy for you if you're getting him that late. We're not saying like take a jump on him, but like you're getting him like when you're in that like sort of realm and you see him on the board, like you go and snap him up because he's in a position to do big things, and like he can be that guy that just that maybe that one game that he's playing in that Sunday night game, and you need like 12 rebounds and to bump up your field goal percentage, and like show him in there, and he could sort you out, and that's what you're kind of looking for in those late round picks.
Do you have like a favorite like last round pick? Like the last guy on your roster.
That's an interesting one. Joel Embiid.
If he's still there. I
don't know. Have you got one?
Yes, I feel it was going to backfire on me, but Jay Huff, Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
You've seen him in Memphis. You see the flashes there. See what he can do, shooting the three, being athletic rim runner. And just like the prototypical guy that the Pacers would love to have there, he has the athleticism that they're looking for. He has some of that rim protection, and he has the 3-point shot, and he's a very, very willing shooter. In that run and gun system, I think he could pull off like Bobby Portis performances, I think, on that squad. You could draft him. He literally plays 12 minutes a game and nothing happens there. But for center depth, I mean, I think he could pop there. It's hard to find 3-point production from the center position that late.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd be more confident on this if they hadn't added so much like depth around the guard position. But like, if someone like Deuce McBride was still on the board around that mark, I think I would consider him around there. I think he's a guy that you can see put up solid like 3-point numbers, like solid scoring as a bench guy, and like a guy who opportunities will be there for, especially if there's any sort of injuries in the team. And like, he's a guy that deserved more minutes last year, and hopefully Mike Brown comes in and gives them to him.
Yeah. It's tough. I was just looking at that last area there. I was looking at Jeremy Kane too, and I did not realize that Jeremy Kane's going to be out for a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he's going to be out for 4 weeks with thumb surgery because he was a guy that I was hoping to be talking about here, take another big step forward, but hopefully get well soon for him. But there's some injured
It's
guys
Philly.
on here at the last round that maybe you want to draft and stash, but another guy who I think could have a great season and is just waiting to just have his opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there's other guys that I could consider it if you're in keeper leagues and stuff. Like if you can maybe sneak in Jason Tatum really late, something like that. Like
Someone
guys like
actually, it's
that.
true. Someone's gonna do it.
Like I'm talking, do it late. Like you don't do it in a position where you really need to build your team on. But like if you're kind of in like the 10th, 11th round, and you're kind of seeing these injured guys still on the board, and you're like, I could go and just stash this guy and keep him for next year. Like that's not wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to do. Like remember, injured guys do
I
come back.
I'm gonna be toxic and I'm gonna nominate him first in our auction draft and just see what happens. I'm just gonna
And
fish
like
and see
other
what
guys,
happens.
like who actually have a more realistic chance of playing next year, something like Kyrie Irving, maybe as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
keep an eye on some of these. There's some of these guys that might be out until maybe Christmas, but they might come back towards the end of the year, and like you could get great value on them. So make sure you're kind of keeping an eye on these guys and keeping an eye on like the injury report and seeing the updates that you're getting about these guys because you might be able to find yourself a steal in that realm as well.
yeah. Well, I think that about does it for my big value adds. There's I could shove so many people in here. I was tempted to think about Cam Thomas is here, ranked 92 in ESPN, 66 in Yahoo, but there's I'm the eternal optimist when it comes to fantasy, which tends to be my downfall. Uh, but I think we about rounded it out there.
No, I think that's good. We basically have our five best value guys versus the five worst value guys. So make sure you guys take note, and we'll keep ourselves included on these guys as the season goes on. Maybe I'll have to eat a bag of shit on LaMelo Ball, Reed Shepard. Like who knows what we're gonna see?
Shepard's
And
gonna be a
then
top 30 player.
yeah, like Shepard's really gonna pop off as a year two player. LaMelo Ball's actually gonna be healthy, and like Trey Murphy's gonna be the lead guy of the New Orleans Pelicans. Like that could all very well come true, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. We're looking at when you're going preseason, you're kind of just looking at the stats and the potential and little things like that, and that's what you have to go off. So always look forward. I'm always happy to get proven wrong. It happens a lot on this podcast. We don't come on here to try and we would love to be right all the time, but unfortunately, that's just not the way that it goes.
It's not as fun that way. I'm
No,
happy
if
to
you
be
try to
wrong.
be right all the time, like what's the fun about that? But obviously, we're in the midst now. Preseason is underway. Teams are back out there playing. Never like to read too much into preseason because obviously guys playing limited minutes, different little things like that. It's kind of cool to see some of the international games happening and little things like that. But we're still a couple of weeks away from the opening of the new NBA season, and fantasy drafts are going to be coming up. I think ours is going to be set for next week, I think, and we're looking at. So everyone, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you think. You are on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. Until next time, take care.
Peace.